everyone, and welcome to today's message. I feel like what's going to come through today is messages on fear and really how to relate to life from a place of connection to source and not to the fear-based living, which is like the biological mechanism that we all have. We all have this like biological survival skill to always be aware, to always protect ourselves. But once we come to the realization that when we connect to God, when we connect to source, there really is nothing to fear, things begin to shift in our lives. We no longer are just physical beings. We connect to this part of us that is way greater, which is the God consciousness, the source, the light within the human body. And I feel like that's what my experience in life has been like. When we're so connected to our animal-like traits, which are beautiful and necessary and part of the human experience, we just forget about our limitless possibility. And the truth is like when we look at source, when we look at God, God never limits themselves. God just is. There is no good, there is no bad. It just is. And if you really do a little analysis, God would never say you can't. God would never say you aren't. God would never limit you. And when we recognize this truth within us is when we invite God deeper into our lives. And when I say God, it's the universe, it's this energy of life, this life force, and it has no gender. Actually, I call God Mother, Father, Source, because I feel like there's always these two energies at play, the feminine and the masculine, that really created us. I feel like oftentimes in religion, it's the Father, the Father, the Father, the Father. But it's both. It's the mother and the father. We cannot forget about the mother. And why have we forgotten the mother? What happened there? Why are all these religions so father-centric? There's such a big disconnect between the woman and the men, to the point where the men wanted to dominate the woman, and women, such a big disconnect with themselves that they never gave themselves the half and half role that is natural, because it's 50 women, 50 men. When a mother has a son or a daughter, if that woman is not connected to herself fully, her body, her values, her trust in God, in herself, then we just pass on that lack of mother source energy. So I feel like something that I've been going through for the past years is reclaiming my connection with the mother and with mother source. And that has all been through my body. And in the Kundalini activations, like, the body is the vehicle, and it brings you right back here, right back to this physical vessel that was given to us by our mothers. So that disconnect with the mother, with the physical material birthing energy, the disconnect with the birthing process. Like, as soon as we gave the birthing process to the hands of other people is when we started disconnecting from the mother. As soon as we started disconnecting from nature, we started disconnecting from the mother. And it's all fear-based, because you can only imagine, like, back in the day, people were living in nature, and of course they wanted to survive. So we need a safe home, we need food, we need water. And the truth is God always provides. I always think of this video I saw on Instagram that was like, this lady was fishing in like this little remote town, and she was fishing, and then she did a prayer to God and como que asking God for fish, and then the fish came at them. And all of these like testimonies of how God provides are like in all the religious books, the Quran, the Bible, the Torah, all of them. I'm not super familiar with the Torah, but I'm sure they talk about this, how God always provides, but if you trust. Because if there's fear in the way, you're quite literally blocking the flow of God in your body, because fear is incoherent with God. If you have fear in your heart, in your body, if you have limitations in your mind that are manifesting in your body, you limit the flow of God source energy, because fear is like, and God is like, shoo. And so what happens is, if the mind is creating all these limitations, all this incoherent energy in the body, then God is like, oops, blockage, what's going on? And God cannot flow through, God cannot provide. If you surrender the mind and you recognize your fears and you breathe them in and you observe them rather than become them, then you start opening the pathways of energy in your body. So as soon as you let go of the mind, okay, the blockage starts softening, and then what happens? God flows right in. And as God flows right in, your energy field starts healing, and you start letting even more light into your body, and your life outside of you is going to reflect that as well. So for example, whatever you ask for, and we don't ask from a place of need, we ask from a place of, we are vessels of God and we are meant to receive if we allow it. It's all a process of allowing, of transmuting the fear and the pain and letting it get us closer to our true essence, which is source essence. And in this little town that we're in, Ezoeda, there's something called the Ganawa music. And this Ganawa music was basically created in the times of slavery. And basically what the slaves would do was they had like the chains on their ankles and their hands. So there's this one instrument that is made of this chain material. And they're going through so much pain. They're being taken from their homes, from their land, from their people, literally enslaved. And what do? They start making music with the chains. Literally, quite literally, they start making music with the chains, and they create this guitar that resembles the shape of the boat, if I'm not wrong. It's this 3-stringed guitar that basically they created to turn their pain into joy, to transmute all of these like terrible situations in life into a gateway to connect with spirit, with God. There are these painful situations in life, disgusting situations, but that ultimately God uses in a way to bring us closer to God. So if we have the tools and if we understand this, we start seeing every situation as an opportunity, as a pathway to get closer to source. And then God, in a way, does not have to use these very painful experiences anymore to bring you closer to Him. It just becomes more soft. So it's no longer like this huge slap in the face. It just becomes a little bit softer because you have tuned your instrument. You're using discernment to see when you're falling in the hands of fear or you're falling in the hands of God, and you're getting closer to the state of love. And I had a situation in my family where my sister was overcoming this challenge of not being pregnant. And even my mom said, through these challenges, I have gotten so much closer to God, because instead of fearing she's not gonna get pregnant, she's not gonna have a baby, these painful situations reinforce your faith in our Creator and your faith in your body as a vessel of creation. All of us in the family trusted instead of feared. And now we have a beautiful baby girl, Lucia, on the way. And it's just like these little situations in life that, oof, one moment. Every moment is an opportunity to get closer to love and not fear. And this was one of the most clear teachings to me when I started my spiritual path, is to always ask myself, is this coming from love or from fear? Fear makes you smaller. Love expands your energy field. So we have to go about life asking ourselves, does this thought, does this action limit me and make me smaller? Or does it expand me and allow me to trust in the power of our Creator and the ability to receive and to have all my needs met, to receive limitless abundance in the form of love, health, wealth, abundance, everything. Life has been this like constant surrender. It's the mind and the ego that prevents us from surrendering. And we have to acknowledge the mind and the ego because they're very relevant and very important. And they can be used as tools for God's source energy. They're actually our greatest tools if we know how to use them properly. I talk about all of this in the somatic energy healing and activation training on how to use the mind and the ego as your greatest allies, to share your message, to protect yourself, to have boundaries. But when the mind and the ego are based on fear instead of love, they literally become catastrophic. That's why we see so much dark shit happen in the world. It is that fear energy that prevents us from activating the light that we are. And I see it every day. I have clients, friends, and as an energy healer and a vessel for this God source energy. I've gotten so close to God and source. I have felt the light flow through my body in ways that I didn't even know were real. I felt God. And I think you need to feel God in order to really develop this relationship with God. Because if you're just reading about it mentally, you know, it's part of the journey, but it all stays up here. And life is felt. So whenever you do feel fear, it's always an opportunity, this gorgeous, beautiful opportunity to see where you can surrender more and allow and take aligned action. Take aligned action because energy is meant to move. It's not meant to stay stagnant. And aligned action does not cause confusion. When the action is karmic, it leaves you with a residue of like, shit, what did I do? What was that? What was it? When the action is aligned, it leaves you with a sense of clarity and with a sense of personal power and true expression. And this fear is always reflected in our body. Tension, disease, illness, it's all fear-based. You can always ask someone, when did you stop trusting? If someone has an illness, a disease, a pain, where in your life are you not aligned with the energy of source? Of course you go deep. This is what this work is for. But it's also very simple. Where did you stop trusting? Where did you start overthinking? Where did you let guilt, shame, anger have power over you? Where did you let fear take over? That's where the gold is. The gold is in recognizing all emotions as power. And in that process, you're basically turning that fear into more love. And it's that image of like, in order to hold more love, you need to be able to hold more fear. And when I say hold more fear, it means recognizing it, observing it, and surrendering to it, breathing it in, not fearing the fear. It's the fear of feeling that causes all problems in humanity. So take some time today to notice where you're still holding fear in your body and how you can integrate that more into your life, not shy away from it in protection mode, but open yourself to this fear and choose source energy above all. We trust, we love, we surrender, we listen to our hearts. Because I feel like so many of us have all these visions and dreams in our hearts. We know what we want our lives to look and feel like. We know it, but we have disconnected so much from this because we think it's impossible, because we think it's not gonna happen, because we don't know how we're gonna do it. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about the how. Don't worry about things being impossible. Stay connected to your heart, to your vision, and take the aligned action and the surrender every day to get closer to that. And if there is even one doubt in your mind, recognize it, but stay connected to your heart and your vision. And I think this is what happened to me a lot in my past relationship, where I've always had a vision of what my relationship and family should look like. And for a while, I was definitely creating that with this partner of mine. But it got to a point where my vision and my desires were getting so loud and growing, and some things were not growing in my relationship. And I had two choices: make myself smaller to make this work, or choose what my heart knows is real. So the ways I see fear play out in people's lives is very relevant, and the way that I feel fear in my body, because when I basically meet people, I can immediately tell how open their heart is or how closed it is. And it's a closed heart that is so afraid of fear, that is so afraid of feeling emotions and fear. The way that I feel fear in my nervous system and how I observe it in others is literally like an incoherent attack, like needles. And that's what's happening at a cellular level in your body when fear is flowing through you, when you're rejecting the fear, when you have no relationship with it. So what happens when you have no relationship with the fear is that it has power over you. And it's like the fear is quite literally attacking you, attacking your cells, attacking your nervous system. And that's why disease happens. Compared to someone with an open heart, the energy feels very free, very expressive. Everything comes from a place of wholeness, of abundance. And the way that that feels is like harmony, like complete peace. Like you could be fully vulnerable with each other and express yourself. So the conclusion of this whole conversation is have a relationship with your fear, shake hands with it, feel where it is in your body, and surrender to it. And you know, in the Kundalini activations, what happens is why people shake, why people twitch, like, is because you're releasing all of the survival fear energy. And I love this, the image of like when animals fight and then you see them like shake it off after the fight because they know how to release this survival energy. Humans don't. Humans think shaking is weird and all this shit. So you give yourself space in an activation, in a therapy session, to physically release this fear energy and make room for the light. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that this message gives you some type of advice or information and ultimately just allows you to use fear as your greatest tool and your greatest ally to become a vessel, an embodiment of the light of source, and allow you to share this energy of love in the world. We already have so much fear in the world. So by us transforming this and choosing love and embodying the source energy, the limitlessness, the infinite possibility, we start to share this with others. And that's how the world can start shifting and changing. Thank you.